This is a fine Italian restaurant, not a slum cafeteria, understand?
The sneer cut through the air, sharp as a knife. Three men in expensive suits, drunk on whiskey and arrogance, laughed as if the world itself belonged to them. A young waitress froze, forcing a smile to avoid trouble, while the rest of the restaurant sank into an uneasy silence. In the middle of that silence stood Maya Johnson, a small, dark-skinned woman in a simple black dress. She lifted her head. She had just returned to San Diego after 18 months of deployment in the Middle East, a former Navy operative who had survived some of the harshest war zones on Earth. Tonight, all she wanted was a quiet dinner in her favorite Italian place. At night, San Diego shimmered like a jewel on the edge of the Pacific. The city lights bounced off rain-soaked streets, turning the whole skyline into a glimmering mirror floating above the dark ocean. Amid the stream of headlights and umbrellas, a lone figure walked. Maya Johnson, 31 years old, a former Navy SEAL returning after more than 18 months in the Middle East. The long months in deserts and jungles had forged her into steel, a soldier tempered by sleepless nights where death could come with a single breath. But tonight, for the first time in almost 2 years, Maya allowed herself something ordinary. Dinner as a civilian. Not a soldier, not a fighter, just a woman longing for peace. She chose a small Italian restaurant on the corner, the same one she used to visit before each deployment. The smell of tomato sauce, melting cheese, and wood-fired bread softened something in her chest. As she stepped inside, she was greeted by laughter, the clink of silverware, and an old Italian melody drifting from a dusty speaker. Families chatted over pasta, couples whispered by candlelight. For a moment, it felt like the world had forgotten how cruel it could be. Maya took a small table near the back, facing the entrance, a habit that never died. In the military, position meant survival. Always watch, always control the line of sight. She slipped off her light coat, revealing a simple black dress. No armor, no weapon, no orders. Yet her eyes still carried that sharp awareness, the reflex of someone who had lived too long on the edge between life and death. When the chicken parmesan arrived, the smell of cheese and tomato made her smile faintly. A simple meal, something that, in the service, could feel like luxury. But even as she tried to relax, her instincts kept scanning the room. Everything seemed normal, except for the 3 men at the bar. They looked like they had just left a high-end gala. Fitted suits, polished shoes, expensive watches. But Maya recognized something beneath the gloss. The swagger of men who thought they were untouchable. Empty beer bottles rolled across the counter. Their coarse laughter drowned out the music. Every word they spat was another crack in the restaurant's fragile calm. She knew this type. Cowards on the battlefield. Bullies in the bar. In the service, they were called troublemakers. Loud until danger appeared. Maya sighed and tried to focus on her food. This isn't a mission, she told herself. This is your night. But her eyes never left the bar. One of them slammed his hand down, beer froth spilling everywhere. Another leaned toward the waitress with crude remarks, making the young woman blush and retreat. No one spoke up. The manager hovered behind the counter, clutching his phone, glancing nervously at the clock. Silence settled over the room. The same silence Maya had seen in war-torn villages, where fear spoke louder than words. The situation spiraled fast. The men's laughter grew louder, their slurs now aimed at a young couple sitting nearby. The girl's hands trembled around her glass, eyes downcast. Her boyfriend tried to stay calm, but clearly wasn't built to face 3 drunk men. "Please, just leave her alone," he said softly. But his words were a spark to a fuse. The biggest man smirked, stood, and swaggered over to their table. He leaned down, one hand gripping the back of the girl's chair, his breath thick with alcohol. "You have any idea how many women would kill for my attention? Don't waste the chance, sweetheart." The girl flinched, turning her face away. Her boyfriend shot up, voice shaking but firm. "That's enough. Back off." The man didn't. Instead, he grabbed the girl's wrist, yanking her so hard the chair crashed onto the tile. A small scream broke out. The restaurant froze. The manager fumbled for his phone to call the police, but everyone knew. A few minutes would be too late. In that suspended moment, the terrified girl's eyes met a calm, steady gaze from across the room, Maya's. No words were needed. One look was enough. It was time to stand. Maya set down her fork, dabbed her lips with a napkin, and rose. Every muscle coiled tight, ready. The music had died. The candles flickered out. A cold stillness spread through the room as she began to walk forward, slow, deliberate. With each step, the air grew heavier. When she was only a few paces away, she stopped. Her voice was low, clear, and sharp as a blade. Enough. No one breathed. No one moved. Every eye turned toward the small woman standing in the center of the room. The young girl was still trapped in the man's grip, tears brimming. Her boyfriend trembled, frozen. "Let her go," Maya said, her tone even, almost quiet. Yet it sliced through the air. The large man laughed, emboldened by the alcohol. "Oh yeah? And who the hell are you to order me around? Stay out of men's business, little black girl." But in that instant, something in the room shifted. Maya's small frame no longer looked fragile. It was the stance of a warrior, the stillness before a storm. The girl's quickened breaths echoed through the heavy air. The three men kept laughing, feeding on the fear around them. But in Maya's mind, the scene was crystal clear. She had seen this moment 100 times, when hesitation could cost a life. Her gaze swept across every face, the girl's fear, the boy's helplessness, the crowd's silence, the kind of silence that stripped people of their dignity. And Maya knew, if she stayed seated, she would never forgive herself. She stood up. Her voice was low, firm, cutting through the thick air. "Let her go." The three men spun around. For a split second, surprise flickered in their eyes before melting into sneers. The tallest one, still gripping the girl's arm, smirked. "Oh, you want to be a hero, sweetheart? Sit down before you get yourself hurt." The skinny one let out a high, mocking laugh and stepped forward. "Or maybe you want to join the fun? There's room for you, babe." No one in the restaurant could believe that the small woman had just stood up to three drunk men twice her size. But in Maya's deep black eyes, there wasn't a trace of fear, only a cold, unwavering light, as if her entire life had prepared her for this moment. "I'll say it one more time," she said, her voice cold as steel. "Let her go. Now." The tone wasn't loud, but it carried the weight of thousands of hours of training and of battles fought on the edge of life and death. It wasn't a plea. It was a command. The young woman looked at Maya, a flicker of hope rising in her eyes. Her boyfriend swallowed hard, drawing courage from the stranger's calm, but the men only laughed louder. The tall one snorted and leaned closer to the girl's ear, just enough for Maya to hear. "Who does she think she is? This is men's business. Walk away before you regret it." Then he turned to Maya, his gaze running up and down with contempt. "Sit down. We wouldn't want to hurt a delicate little lady." He didn't know it, but that sentence lit the fuse. Maya didn't move, but every nerve in her body came alive. She lowered her stance slightly, weight balanced, eyes locked forward. Her mind repeated the old mantra: observe, predict, act. The skinny man downed the last of his wine, smirked, and lunged, shoving at her shoulder. "Sit down, or show us what you've got, sweetheart." The air stretched tight. Everyone held their breath. One wrong touch, and there would be no turning back. Maya's eyes flashed. The storm had arrived. She didn't step back. Her voice came calm and deadly. "Stop, that's your final warning." The words weren't shouted, but they sliced through every sound, cold as a blade. Not a plea, a battlefield command. The skinny man hesitated for a heartbeat, then scoffed. "Scary. What are you going to do, call the manager?" All three burst into harsh laughter, echoing over the fading music. The tall one tightened his grip on the girl, making her cry out in pain. "This isn't your problem, understand? Walk away before it becomes one." Maya didn't flinch. She stared straight at him. That look alone made him falter. Half a step back, instinct whispering that he'd just crossed something far more dangerous than he could see. She drew a slow, steady breath. In her head, everything fell into place. Distance, angles, obstacles, exits. Each scenario ran like lightning through her mind. It was pure instinct, survival written into her muscles. "Let her go," Maya said, her voice firm, measured. "This is your last chance to leave without getting hurt." A shiver went through the room. Her tone carried the weight of a sentence already passed, but the drunks only laughed harder. The short, stocky one crossed his arms and growled, "You think you're a cop? If you don't want trouble, walk away." Maya gave a slight nod, her voice steady as forged iron. "I warned you. That was your last chance." In the military, they'd taught her, always give the enemy a way out, and when they refuse, don't hesitate. The skinny one spat a curse and shoved her hard by the shoulder. A fatal mistake. Time seemed to stop. To most, it was just a shove. But in Maya's world, that was the line. The shift from threat to attack. And once that line was crossed, there was no reason left to stand still. 15 years of combat training ignited like instinct. Her body moved before her mind had to think. She pivoted, seized his wrist, twisted. A sharp crack echoed, and the man collapsed to his knees. In the next breath, his face slammed against the tile. The restaurant froze. In a single second, the loudest man was on the ground, too stunned to understand what had happened. The tall one released the girl and roared, charging like a bull. But Maya was already ready. His punch was strong, but slow. She slipped aside, and in the same motion, her left hand struck the nerve cluster in his neck. He froze mid-motion, legs buckling, collapsing into the table beside him. Glasses shattered, plates flew. It was over in less than 5 seconds. The last man, short and thick-set, panicked and tried to bolt. Maya shifted her stance, stepped twice, and used his own momentum. A light twist, and he hit the floor, sliding half a meter before lying still, gasping. 15 seconds, exactly 15 seconds, and the storm was over. The room fell dead silent. 3 men lay scattered across the floor, one clutching his wrist, one buried in broken dishes, another crumpled by the door. No one dared breathe too loud. The young woman, freed, trembled, red marks still on her arm. Her boyfriend held her tight, caught between fear and awe. They both looked at Maya with a wordless gaze. Gratitude and disbelief intertwined. Maya drew a long breath and let her shoulders sag. She swept her gaze over the men lying motionless, making sure there was no further danger. Then she turned to the young couple, voice strangely calm. "Are you both okay? Do you need me to call an ambulance?" The girl shook her head, tears streaming, down but smiling through them. I'm fine. Thank you. Truly, thank you." Soft applause rippled through the restaurant, then grew. A few people had raised their phones to record what had just happened. Someone murmured, "Who is she? Unbelievable." "Must be trained," another voice said. The manager came forward, still dazed, muttering, "My God, was that really only 15 seconds?" Maya said nothing. She quietly returned to her table, picked up a fallen napkin from the floor, and straightened it. A small, ordinary action, but in everyone's eyes it looked like the ritual closing of a legend. The 3 men still groaned. Then, suddenly, the tallest one sprang to his feet, his face red with humiliation more than with drink. "She's crazy," he roared. "We were just talking. She attacked us." The other 2 immediately chimed in, their voices sharp between their teeth. "That's right. She started it. She twisted my arm. I think it's broken. Call the police. She's dangerous." The lies made the air sway. Some people hesitated, not sure whom to believe. The manager broke into a sweat, voice trembling. "Everyone, please calm down. Let's wait for the police. I don't want more trouble." Maya stood still. No explanations, no reaction. Her eyes were steady, silent but unwavering. Then, from a corner of the room, an elderly voice rang out, aged but strong. A silver-haired man, thin but with bright eyes, rose slowly. His cane struck the floor with a solid thump that seemed to snap the whole room out of the chaotic haze. "That's enough. I saw the whole thing," the old man said, his voice carrying clearly across the walls. "You three were drunk, harassing a woman, even yanking her from her chair. This woman only stepped in when you wouldn't let go. Stop twisting the truth." His words were like a bell breaking through the cloud of doubt. Many diners nodded at once. A middle-aged woman stood up. "That's right. I saw it all. You scared my daughter so she didn't even want to go to the restroom. If it weren't for her, I don't want to imagine what would have happened." Murmurs spread through the room, then swelled into a wave of outrage. Witnesses began to speak up, each sentence like a stone thrown at the wall of lies. The young couple, the direct victims, staggered forward. The thin young man took a deep breath and enunciated each word. "It was her who saved us. If not for her, my girlfriend would have been dragged away. We begged you to stop, but you didn't listen. She only defended us." The girl beside him held up her arm, the red mark still visible. "This is proof. He squeezed my arm this hard, and now he dares to say it was just talking." Those words set the crowd off. Many people raised their phones. "I recorded it. The restaurant cameras caught it too." The three men turned pale. No one expected so many people to stand up, and everything was recorded. Their arrogance crumbled into panic. But even drunk, they tried to salvage something. "You don't understand. She knows some martial arts. She attacked us first. She's dangerous. If you don't call the police, who knows what she'll do next?" Their weak defense only fueled the crowd's anger. A young man at a neighboring table shouted, "What kind of men are you? Cowards, drunk, harassing women and then blaming the women's protector." Applause rose again. This time, truth louder than any lie. Maya remained silent. She didn't need to argue. The truth and the footage would speak for her. The manager, having regained his composure, nodded in confirmation. "That's right. My staff and I saw it. They were bothering multiple tables. We were about to ask them to leave when this happened. She only defended and protected our customers. When the police arrive, I will testify." The three men glanced at one another, fear creeping into their eyes. The murmurs and furious stares of the crowd seemed to push them deeper into the corner. Then, from outside, a siren wailed. Blue and red lights flickered through the restaurant's front windows. Maya exhaled slowly. She knew the fight of fists was over, but the fight for truth was only beginning. The door burst open. 3 police officers entered, their boots striking the tile with firm precision. Leading them was Sergeant Maria Rodriguez, 15 years on the force. Her sharp eyes swept over the chaos, overturned tables, shattered glass, 3 battered men, and 1 small black woman standing calmly at the far end of the room. Her instincts told her this wasn't a simple bar brawl. "What happened here?" she asked, her voice clear and commanding. Immediately, the tall man pointed at Maya. "Her! She attacked us! We were just talking! She's insane!" The other 2 jumped in instantly. "She broke my arm, I swear! She knows martial arts! She's dangerous!" Maria jotted a few notes, but her expression didn't change. 15 years on the job had taught her one thing. The louder they shout, the more they're hiding. She turned toward Maya, who stood straight, calm, eyes steady. She didn't look like an aggressor. Not at all. "Ma'am, can you tell me what happened?" Maya nodded, her voice low but firm. "They were drunk, harassing several women in the restaurant. When they dragged one girl from her chair and refused to stop, I told them to let go. One of them made physical contact, attempting to push me down, so I used minimal force to stop him and protect everyone around." The statement was short, precise. the opposite of the men's chaotic shouting. But in situations like this, evidence always spoke louder than words. "Any witnesses?" Maria asked. Voices erupted at once. "I saw everything, officer. They pulled the girl out of her chair. My daughter was terrified and crying. She saved the whole restaurant." The young couple stepped forward, their voices trembling. "They grabbed her. I begged them to stop. This woman saved us." The girl lifted her arm, the red mark still glaring against her skin. "This is the proof. He squeezed so hard he left bruises, and now he says they were just talking." Maria raised her hand for silence, then ordered, "Collect all security footage and witness videos." The manager, still shaking, handed her an external drive. "Everything's here, officer." Minutes later, the footage played on a tablet. The room fell silent. Frame by frame, everything was clear. 3 drunk men pulling a girl from her seat. Maya stepping in calmly, speaking to them, and then the instant the skinny one touched her shoulder, before being taken down in a blur. No blind spots, no room for lies. Maria closed the tablet, her tone cold and decisive. "You're under arrest for assault, harassment, and disturbing the peace. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court." The click of handcuffs echoed, sharp and final. The 3 men shouted protests, but were met only with the cold stares of everyone around. The crowd broke into applause, not loud, but heavy with gratitude. Maria looked at Maya for a long moment before nodding slightly. Impressive composure. In 15 years, I've rarely seen someone handle it that well. You've had training, haven't you? Maya smiled faintly. "I have a bit of background." Maria understood instantly, but didn't press further. Justice was clear. As the cuffed men were led out, the restaurant erupted into applause and sighs of relief. The manager bowed slightly. "If it weren't for you, I don't know what would have happened. Your meal tonight, it's on the house." Maya just smiled and nodded. She hadn't done it for thanks, only because that instinct to protect never really faded. But that night, when everyone thought it was over, another storm was already rising. The video spread like wildfire across social media. "Tiny woman takes down 3 men in 15 seconds. Heroine of the Italian restaurant. Real or staged?" Within hours, tens of thousands of shares and comments flooded in. "I can't believe this. She's definitely ex-military. She's living proof. Never judge someone by their size." The next morning, every major newspaper in San Diego ran the story. Channel 8 sent a news crew straight to the restaurant. Witnesses recounted every detail: Maya's composure, her warning, and the lightning-fast takedown. The silver-haired veteran, the first man to defend her that night, spoke with pride. "I'm a veteran. I've seen my share of fights, but I've never seen a woman move that fast and that precisely. She didn't just save that girl. She saved everyone in that restaurant." The story quickly spread, beyond San Diego, reaching national news. Martial arts experts and former military personnel were invited to analyze the footage frame by frame. A former Marine commented live on TV, "The way she controls momentum and uses her opponent's force against them, that's not casual self-defense. That's professional-grade training." The name Maya Johnson began to circulate after witnesses recalled hearing the manager call her that. Online, people exploded into a frenzy trying to uncover her identity. Maya's phone buzzed non-stop. Friends, former teammates, even strangers all sending the same message. "Is it you? Are you the woman from the video?" It didn't take long for the news to reach her superiors. Colonel Robert Hayes, a stern man with iron-gray eyes behind steel-rimmed glasses, summoned her to his office. "Johnson," he began, "you know we always tell our operatives to keep a low profile off duty. But this is beyond containment. The entire country's talking about you." Maya sat upright, her voice calm. "Sir, I only did what any citizen should. They were being attacked. I stepped in to protect them." Hayes was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. You did the right thing, exactly what a Navy SEAL is trained to do. But now, this isn't just about you anymore. On his desk was a thick stack of reports. News clippings, screenshots, floods of online comments. We'll have to issue an official statement. Maya exhaled quietly. She had never sought the spotlight. To her, serving her country was duty, not display. But this wave had already spread too far to hide. Online, support was overwhelming. Thank you for proving that justice can come from anyone. I want my daughter to grow up strong like her. She's the modern-day heroine we need. Recruitment centers reported a surge of new applicants, especially young women inspired to be like Maya Johnson. For Maya, the spotlight was a burden. She only wanted to return to normal life. Morning workouts, visits with her mother, quiet dinners. But deep down, she knew. After that night, nothing would ever be the same. From a simple dinner in an Italian restaurant in San Diego, Maya Johnson, that small, dark-skinned woman, had unintentionally become a symbol of courage and justice in everyday life. And to her, the greatest lesson wasn't about strength, but about dignity, the one thing no one can take from you when you stand up for what's right. The next morning, headlines across San Diego blared in bold letters. 3 men in suits taken down in 15 seconds, and the woman who silenced a nation. But behind the flash of headlines were 3 lives collapsing. David Morrison, a marketing director at a multinational corporation, had been the picture of success. Tailored suits, luxury cars, a 6-figure salary, and endless speeches about respect and equality in the workplace. Then, when the video went viral, his company immediately released a statement. We do not tolerate any unethical conduct, contrary to our values of respect and diversity. David was suspended on the spot and fired within a week. Former colleagues whispered, "Who would have thought the guy preaching equality was the same man harassing women in public?" James Wheeler, a young attorney at a prestigious law firm, had once dreamed of making partner. That dream ended with a single line in an internal memo. Terminated for public misconduct and harassment. His elite degree couldn't save his career. In one night, James lost everything: reputation, future, and the trust of his entire profession. Kevin Torres, a financial consultant, faced the same fate. His firm's policy was explicit. Any act of violence or harassment results in immediate termination. Kevin was fired within 48 hours and stripped of his financial advisor's license. For a man whose work relied on credibility and trust, it was a death sentence for his career. The 3 men who had once walked into the restaurant in tailored suits, proud, arrogant, and untouchable, now appeared in the headlines wearing handcuffs. Their names, job titles, and photos were plastered across every front page. The trial moved quickly. After hearing witness testimonies and reviewing the footage, the judge delivered the sentence: 6 to 12 months of probation, mandatory community service, enrollment in anger management programs, and financial and emotional compensation to the restaurant and its patrons. But the legal punishment wasn't what destroyed them. What truly broke them was the verdict of the public. Online, they were branded with 1,000 humiliating nicknames: the 3 filthy gentlemen in suits, the 15-second trio, the men who learned the most expensive lesson of their lives. The video of Maya taking them down became an internet phenomenon. Millions of shares, hundreds of mocking memes and commentaries. Meanwhile, the little Italian restaurant on the corner of Broadway became an unlikely landmark. People came not just for the chicken parmesan, but to see the legendary table where Maya had once sat. The manager mounted a small plaque on the wall. "Here, one woman stood up for justice. Thank you, Maya Johnson." The story grew beyond the city. Universities invited Maya to speak about bystander intervention, how one person's action can stop violence in public spaces. Nonprofits used her story in gender-based violence prevention campaigns. The young couple she saved became familiar faces at seminars, always opening their talk with the same words. No one dared to stand up until she did. When reporters asked Maya for comment, she simply said, "I only did what anyone should. protect others when they're in danger. I'm not a hero, just a citizen who couldn't look away. Her humility only made the public love her more. News outlets called her the woman who turned 15 seconds into a lesson on justice. Editorials praised her as a symbol of female strength and the dignity of the Black community, a group so often underestimated by society. As for the three men, they paid not only with their careers, but with the weight of public disgrace. Maya, on the other hand, became a national inspiration. Women across the country began posting training videos with the hashtag #BeLikeMaya, writing, "I want to be as strong as her." Martial arts schools, self-defense classes, and life skills centers saw record enrollments. One drunken night and a few reckless minutes had destroyed 3 lives, but 15 seconds of courage from Maya had ignited a movement of empowerment. What many thought would fade after the trial instead evolved into a cultural symbol. The image of Maya, in her simple black dress, calm gaze amid chaos, appeared on nightly news programs, in newspapers, and across countless viral videos. She had never wanted fame. As a former operative accustomed to shadows, Maya had always preferred silence, but now secrecy was no longer possible. Women's organizations and civil rights groups sent her invitations daily. She turned down sensational talk shows, choosing instead to speak in schools and youth centers. At one event, standing before hundreds of silent students, she said, "You don't have to be a soldier to protect others. Sometimes all it takes is one word, one act, standing on the side of what's right, to change everything." Those words planted a seed, teaching that courage isn't a feeling, but an action. The 3 men disappeared from public life, but their story lived on as a warning. Corporations began conducting workshops on public conduct and diversity awareness. Bars and restaurants hung signs reading, "Zero tolerance for harassment." Several universities even included the Maya Johnson case in sociology and law courses as a case study in ethics and civic responsibility. The young couple never forgot that night. During a guest lecture at a university, the man choked up as he said, "We thought no one would help, but she stood up. She taught us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in spite of it." Both of them now work actively in anti-harassment campaigns, often repeating, "Maya taught us that when one person stands up, the world begins to change." Within the Navy, her name became synonymous with 3 core values: courage, integrity, respect. Her former teammates often said they had never felt prouder to see a Black woman, a Navy SEAL, become a role model for an entire generation. For the Black community, Maya Johnson became a symbol of pride and hope. A journalist wrote, "Maya didn't just protect a girl in a restaurant. She protected the belief that justice still exists, and that it can begin with anyone." Years passed, yet the small plaque in the restaurant corner still gleamed beneath its glass cover. Here, one woman stood up for justice. "Thank you, Maya Johnson." Visitors came to take photos, posting them online with the hashtag #BeLikeMaya. Parents told their children the story as a first lesson in courage. To Maya, it was simply doing the right thing at the right time. But to society, it became a legacy, a torch rekindling faith in the strength of human decency. In a packed auditorium of university students, Maya ended her talk with a gentle smile. Justice doesn't always need a gun or a uniform. Sometimes it just needs one person brave enough to say no when something is wrong. The audience rose to their feet in applause. And in that thunder of clapping hands, Maya understood. Her action that night had long surpassed those 15 seconds in a small restaurant. It had become a living flame, one that would keep burning. Today's story comes to a close, but Maya's legacy continues to live on. If you believe that courage can change the world, hit like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe to help us spread stories of hope, justice, and resilience. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey, where truth and humanity will keep shining bright.